Hi, I'm Donald McIntyre, Operations Manager at Emerald, and this is the Emerald Blockchain course, Class 2, the Cypherpunks. Everything started with what I explained in the first class, which was public key cryptography. Public key cryptography to review. Basically, everyone in the internet can have a secret password or private key and have a public key, and then everybody can send encrypted messages to anybody else, and they can be encrypted with the public key of the users, of the receivers, and decrypted with the secret key. This was a key technology because it opened and enabled the internet to be much more flexible and for people to be able to participate on a peer-to-peer basis in the internet. And the cypherpunks were a group of cryptologists and computer scientists and philosophers that started to get together by email on the internet at the end of the 80s. And they found this technology very useful because they thought that the internet was going to be this great place for freedom, for people to interact and do commerce and share information no matter where you were. But at the same time, they saw risks because corporations, banks, governments could start surveilling people, limiting people's actions, capturing information and stuff like that. So they thought, they debated a lot, and they started to develop technologies to create a safer place within the internet. And this cryptography in general and private key cryptography in particular were key tools that they thought that were going to be useful for that. So the cypherpunks, because they were a group of libertarians, there were hundreds of people almost interacting between them over the internet and debating things and building software products, etc. They had these 4 core principles. They wanted a space in the internet for people to interact that was private, to minimize the risk of surveillance and control by third parties and governments. They figured that if there was going to be commerce in this kind of environment, they needed an independent digital currency or hard money of the internet, so that people wouldn't have to depend on government money, and inflation and stuff like that. And then the other thing was smart contracts was a critical component and idea of the group, because to be able to minimize the role of trusted third parties like banks and corporations and governments, of interfering in interactions, to replace their functions and their services, smart contracts was going to be a tool that they needed to create to replace many of these functions. So the overarching goal of the cypherpunks was trust minimization, to not rely on third parties so much, and to try to create this peer-to-peer world where people would interact freely. These are important principles because Emerald, as a company, and our product Emerald Wallet follows these principles of privacy, hard money because we provide access to cryptocurrencies to users that they can use globally, and smart contracts because through our wallet people can interact with dApps and smart contracts, and trust minimization because we believe very firmly in that every user has to hold their key. So through our app, users can hold their private keys and control their assets, and we have no access to that. So we are very aligned with the basic principles of the blockchain industry. Cypherpunks eventually created all the components that are key parts or core parts of Bitcoin and the blockchain industry. And in a way, everything started with people like Tim May. Tim May is a founding member of the cypherpunk movement at the end of the 80s. And he wrote a lot of the philosophy. He was in a way the alpha in the group. Everybody looked up to him and he was very loved. He passed away in 2018, but he wrote a lot of the philosophy and the principles and the justifications for all of these ideas and technologies. Another key person is Adam Back. He created, using proof of work, he created a technology called Hashcash, which was originally to prevent spam in this peer-to-peer world, but it eventually became a core component of Bitcoin. I'm going to explain these technologies in the next video. Then Nick Szabo is also a writer of core pieces of the philosophy of the Cypherpunks, and he invented the concept of smart contracts in the early 90s. He wrote about the origins of money, which provides the key principles for the creation of a digital currency like Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And I would say the origins of money is the seminal paper that explains definitively what is money. Then he wrote the justification of why trusted third parties are security holes and all the risks that they entail. And the basic idea is that when you deposit trust in someone or a corporation or organization, at some point, eventually, that trust is very likely to be abused. And that's what we see a lot with many industries and banking and governments and stuff like that. And he invented also BitGold. It was an idea connected to Hashcash that I'm going to explain in the next class. BitGold basically is the concept of digital gold to create scarcity inside the internet. The other key person in the blockchain industry and in the cypherpunk movement is Wei Dai. He invented in 1998 B-Money. B-Money, he said, okay, if we get Nick Szabo's BitGold, we can have a network of peers and they all have a secret key and the public key, and we use the public key as their accounts, and they can transfer this BitGold. And when a subset of the network creates BitGold, we can deposit in their accounts a digital currency as a reward for creating BitGold. So these are ideas that are very similar to how Bitcoin works today. And finally, another key person and a legend in the blockchain industry is Hal Finney. He passed away in 2014, and he's a legend because he was the first user of Bitcoin. When Satoshi Nakamoto launched Bitcoin, he had his node, and the first other user was Hal Finney, and they debated and they fixed many bugs of the code, and he collaborated a lot in the initial steps of the launching of Bitcoin. But he also, in 2004, he had created a technology called RPOW, which means reusable proof of work, that it was also used by Satoshi Nakamoto to create Bitcoin. So in the next class, I'm going to explain what is Hashcash and proof of work, BitGold, B-Money, and RPOW. Thank you very much for watching this video. This is the Emerald Blockchain course, class 2, the Cypherpunks. And please remember to download Emerald at emerald.cash/download. Thank you very much.